everyone, and welcome to the White Gold Corp Live Summit hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce the speakers for today: David D'Onofrio, the CEO; Terry Brace, the VP Exploration; Cam Norton, the Exploration Manager and Geologist. They'll go over the updated MRE, review the 2023 exploration program, and after that, we'll be accepting questions. As always, as a reminder, you can submit your questions in the chat at any point during the presentation. And as always, this summit is being recorded and it will be available to watch on six.com afterwards. Without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to you, Dave, so that we can get started.
Thank you so much, Maxim. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and provide an update or maybe an introduction on White Gold Corp. I'm David D'Onofrio, the CEO and one of the co-founders of the company. For those who may not know, White Gold was founded 2016. It's a partnership between the Power One Capital Group based out of Toronto, which is a boutique mining or boutique investment bank. We do quite a bit in mining and exploration over the last 20 years. And we partnered with renowned prospector Sean Ryan, who is credited for, what I'll say is cracking the code of how to make gold discoveries in this area of the Yukon. And it's a tremendous place to work in. From all the companies we've been involved with in the last 20 years, and we've been fortunate to have been involved with some very high-profile exploration success stories, I really think that this one is a special opportunity and really has all the hallmarks of a tremendous exploration company. And I think, further validating the uniqueness and the prospectivity here is that we were able to attract two major mining companies as shareholders very early on in our existence, being Agnico Eagle and Kinross. What really, in my view, sets this company apart is just the size of the opportunity and the location where it is. We're really so fortunate to have been able to acquire a tremendously enormous land package. We have over 300,000 hectares of premium exploration ground. Now, this is a package that's been sort of evaluated by Sean Ryan and his team for the last sort of 10 years and so. We've really sort of handpicked it. It's probably 80% of the targets in the district. This is now not gone unnoticed, and the district in the last several years has attracted the attention of many other major mining companies. And you can see here on this map, we now have neighbors, Newmont, which is rapidly permitting the coffee discovery, which was one of Sean Ryan's original discoveries as well through the process. This is the largest gold mining company in the world. Our neighbor to the south is Western Copper and Gold. They have Rio Tinto and Mitsubishi as a partner there. You see Hecla has invested in the district, and just sort of to the periphery of the area, speaking again to the quality of the territory being Yukon, Canada. B2Gold is now invested in Snowline and a number of other very significant parties like the Lundin Group and Fireweed Zinc. So from our perspective, when we look at an opportunity, we look at a few things. One, obviously, what's the geological potential? That's going to be first and foremost. But a very close second really is, where is this and what's the opportunity that this will eventually become a mine? And so this package, checked both of those boxes. As you may know or may not know, our particular land package is in the Klondike area of the Yukon. So this is from Dawson south, about 150 kilometers south, and it's just right where Western Copper and Gold and Newmont are active. And this area was, of course, made infamous about 125 years ago with the Klondike gold rush. At that time, and right through and continuing to current day, it's still a very active placer gold mining camp. There's been over 20 million ounces of gold recovered literally right on surface. And remarkably, there has not been any modern day exploration up until about 10 or 15 years ago when Sean Ryan first went there to try and figure out, well, hey, if there's this much gold at surface, there's a good probability of being more in the bedrock. And you may have the question of why, and so did we. And interestingly, this area, believe it or not, was never glaciated. So there's very little outcrop. Less than 2% of the area has visible outcrop. And outcrop is the traditional prospecting tool used in Canada, at least for sure. And without the outcrop, the typical prospectors, they just, their tools, their methodology, their know-how really wasn't applicable here. So they went to other great areas like Ontario and Quebec, BC, etc. And Sean went there, and Sean's he's a data analyst by heart, and he wanted to understand how he could best analyze the potential for mineralization. And what he ended up factoring into was soil sampling methodologies using different pathfinder elements to help identify mineralized systems. And then once he's identified the mineralized systems through these pathfinder elements, it's not as easy as just finding gold in the soils. He then would go to invest and take the exploration to the further step with his other exploration methodologies, which are incredibly unique and proprietary. We've been able to leverage those over the last 10 years. And what they've allowed us to do is very efficiently, effectively analyze these opportunities. Well, unsurprisingly, he and his approach, and in partnership with White Gold, we've been tremendously successful in identifying very significant amounts of gold in this district. And what we really think we have in this company today is a true district in one company. And we believe we have the opportunity to sort of build this along with the other companies in the area that I mentioned into one of Canada's foremost new gold camps. And if that is the case, basically what White Gold represents, it's imagine you can go back in time and basically own 40% of a district in Timmins, or in Val-d'Or, Quebec, or in Nevada. So there are very few opportunities that I'm aware of, at least, where you have that amount of scale and opportunity. And further making that more attractive to us has been, the fact that it's in the Yukon, in Canada, which is one of the highest rated mining jurisdictions in the world. And I think, the fact you see almost all major mining companies now invested in the territory, and particularly close by to our district and in our district, speaks volumes to the potential of the opportunity here. So that's a bit of a background of why we think this is such an exciting opportunity. More importantly, though, is what have we been able to accomplish in the last number of years since we put this company together? And I think I'm tremendously proud of the team that's here, that's involved here. They've done a remarkable job on many different fronts. When you have a property package this big, it's hard to prioritize where to spend your time, where to spend your dollars. But what we wanted to do, and where we sort of focused on at the first 5 years, was really demonstrating that we were able to build critical mass in our flagship property, which is the White Gold property. That property hosts several deposits, which have now, since our most recent mineral update a few months ago, is now crossed a very critical milestone of over 2 million ounces between all categories. And we'll get into the details here, but rough numbers, you're looking at approximately 2.1 million ounces over around 2 grams per ton. So that, in terms of its tenor, is a very sort of unique size and high grade asset. To have that in a jurisdiction like Canada, there's very few junior companies that have that. We'll go into this deposit in some more detail, but you'll see there's a very, very high grade core, comes right to surface. We haven't released any preliminary economic analysis yet. Done our own internal studies, and we're really encouraged by what we think the prospectivity of that deposit is. This deposit remains open in all directions. We found other occurrences of mineralization very close by, and that's been our focus of how we wanted to demonstrate the upside growth potential for this deposit, and we were very successful in that in the last number of years. And we continue to believe that there's tremendous amount of upside with that property to continue to grow to millions of ounces more. So we'll touch on that. And that's what I think is sort of the meat and potatoes of this company. You have a real sizable deposit. You can peg a value to that. That's not going anywhere. But what's equally as important, and if not more exciting, and why people like us really get into this game is, what additional new discovery opportunities are there in the district? And over the past several years, we've been able to make several very exciting discoveries. And I think with this company, you really get the best of both worlds. You're growing ounces on one hand, and you're making these blue sky new discoveries. A couple of our properties have had some really exciting new discoveries. There was one on the Vertigo target a few years ago. Interesting geology there. But probably the most exciting one in the last couple of years on our Betty property. That's right contiguous to Newmont's Coffee project, which they're advancing through the permitting process and looking to make some very significant investments in the district, which I think is at that precipice of time when, when does a camp become a camp? It's when there starts to be a mine putting in production. I think we're getting very close to that. This project, remarkable in only the past few years. We had our initial diamond drill discovery hole. It was 50 plus meters of 3.5 grams, basically right from surface. That is a world-class discovery hole. We've continued to grow that zone laterally in the last several years, and this year, we're looking to continue to grow it, as well as look for the feeder source of that gold. So this is a very exciting project we're looking at. And then with the company, with this much land, there's always different things to look at. We can only get to so much of it, at a time. But down in that same area, which, as Sean calls it, elephant country, we've vectored into 2 large porphyry type targets, and with its proximity to Western Copper's enormous porphyry down there, and with the knowledge of porphyries occurring in clusters, we're pretty optimistic about the potential there as well. So a tremendous amount of activity that's gone on. We have a company that we're really just scratching the surface of this incredibly geological, what I believe, prospective area. I think really the opportunity is unlimited. So we'll go through some of these projects in a little more detail. We only have an hour here. We'll touch on a few of the key ones, open up to questions, and continue. And I hope you really sort of understand the uniqueness of this type of company, and then the opportunity at hand. Maybe Terry, you want to get into the?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That was a great introduction there. Maybe we can go back to the resource slide, Jerry. Here we go. So this is a summary of our mineral resources. This is the most recent update that we did back in April this year. Dr. Jill Arsenault performed this estimate for us. If you look at the map on the right, you can see basically with the yellow stars where our deposits are. The Golden Saddle and the Arc, obviously, they were the original discoveries by Underworld. Then Ryan Surprise is about 2 kilometers off to the west. Again, that's a maiden resource we did this year. And the VG deposit, basically, it's about 12 kilometers to the north on the north side of the Yukon River. So we included that in the White Gold project this year. Just because of the synergies. But if you look at the resource table on the left there, you can see, right now we're sitting at about 1.1 million ounces in the indicated category. That's on the left-hand side of the table. Very good grade of 2.23 grams per ton. But if you can also see that the lion's share of that, about 1.1, is open pit Golden Saddle. So we have a pretty good level of confidence in that resource. This year's estimate, we increased the inferred by about 41%. And again, if you look at the Ryan Surprise, you can see just over 200,000. Again, good grade at about 1.9 grams per ton, open pit. So, all told, I think the inferred is roughly 45% of the resource. The indicated is 55%. So the inferred is grading about 1.5 grams, just the 942,000 ounces there. So anyway, that's, the most recent resource estimate. So we'll look at a few isometric diagrams. Flip through to slide 8. Here you can see, we got the Arc on the left there, the Golden Saddle, the GS West, and then the Ryan Surprise, which we added this year. But you can see that basically there's quite a few open arrows, and there's good reason for that. I mean, most of these zones are remain open either at depth or long strike. Cam's going to do a little bit of display there in Leapfrog where you'll be able to maybe see that a little more clearly. But really the focus on our work and previous work's really been on more shallow drilling. Really, none of these zones have been really tested to any great depth. So, we still feel there's lots of potential here for expansion. Next, please. Yeah, so here's another one. Basically, the one on the left there shows the Arc, Golden Saddle, and GS West. Again, you can see, the block diagram. A lot of this stuff is open. On the right-hand side, top right, you can see Ryan Surprise and the VG. So, we have a nice resource and lots of room for expansion. I think, Cam, are you ready to bring up your Leapfrog, just so we can maybe have another look at it in 3D? Cam, I think there you go.
There we go. You can see my screen.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. So just following up on exactly what Terry said here. So just what we're looking at right now is we're just in plan view, but you can see all the golden soils here on the white property. And then within those golden soils, now we can start to see, here's our Golden Saddle deposit. Here's our Ryan Surprise, and then way off to the north, about 10 kilometers, there's our Keefe deposit, VG deposit up there. So right off the bat, you can also see just how strongly correlated the golden soils are to our actual deposits. So, really shows how well that initial vectoring of an exploration method works for starting to kind of vector into where our deposits are sitting. So as Terry is mentioning, Golden Saddle and Arc, that's the lion's share of our deposits. So we'll just take a quick look at those two deposits right now. Just look at where some extra potential is as well. So as Terry mentioned, we're just going to swing underneath and look down below. About over 1 million ounces just within Golden Saddle and Arc. So we're just looking kind of long section at Golden Saddle. These blocks are all they're resource blocks showing estimated gold grades. So just kind of following up on both Dave and Terry's points there, you can see really nice grades. This is all above 1 gram per ton material. So anything orange is above 1, red is above 2.5, anything pink is above 5 grams per ton. So really continuous strong grades across Golden Saddle. And still open at depth. So really, all this here is a nice plunge of higher grade gold mineralization. You can see the boundary of our drilling is right here and has not been drill tested at all further along strike. And you can see this higher grade going right on down. So a lot of extra potential just right off the bat on Golden Saddle, just within at depth. And then if you start to rotate around and then you look up towards, let's move back towards the Ryan trend. Now, if we look now, the golden soils trend through here as well. So in the last drilling that was done, we're over at GS West. Really strong gold grades as well, and there's been no drilling past that. You can see this nice golden soil anomaly trending. That's another 2+ kilometers right along strike, which then merges into our Minneapolis Creek target up here with very minimal drilling. So a lot of extra potential on strike. That's just Golden Saddle. So just for fun, we'll do the same thing with our Arc deposit. So Arc deposit resource, the resource currently just sits, on this footprint right here. But if we look at the actual golden soils, it extends all the way down here and then up and around. I'm just going to take off the topography. You can see just kind of furthering up to that point, has seen some previous testing on this kind of southern extension. But there's just not enough drilling right now to put a resource on it. But you can see all these gold grades in the zone carrying nicely on through, arcing down to the south, nicely correlating to this golden soil anomaly. So a lot of potential left remaining just at continuing arc along strike. And the same thing at depth. We're just going to swing it around and look kind of right down the length of these deposits. Same thing. So now we're just looking at the depth potential, completely open still at depth for both Arc and Golden Saddle. So a lot of potential there, and that'd be our lion's share of a deposit, a little over 1 million ounces. But yeah, I think confidently we can really look to grow this resource quickly just in those two areas alone. Now we're going to swing over to this is our Orion Surprise target. So we started drilling this in 2018. And so between 2018 and 2022, we put a resource on Orion Surprise, just over 200,000 ounces sitting on Orion Surprise as well. But again, really nice, kind of hard to show here, but some nice high-grade ore shoots as well coming through here. Primarily, you can see just how strongly correlated this is to our golden soil. So we've only tested between those 3 years. We tested this little footprint here, but continues to be open on strike all the way along this golden soil anomaly and down through here. And then we have Uli's Ridge. So we started testing this in 2021. We've had 2 years of drilling at Uli's Ridge. Looks like the same mineralization we see at Ryan. So very likely just the continuation of our Ryan's deposit. It just carries on to the south. And you can see right here, this relatively small footprint that our Orion Surprise target takes up, about just over 200,000 ounces in this small area here. And now we can correlate that down to our Uli's Ridge, a much larger footprint geochemically. And we've only just started scratching the surface of Uli. So I get a lot of room just within our current deposit areas to continue to expand. And then now we start looking at our broader Ryan's trend. You have 6 kilometers along here. And really the most notable untested target to the north is our Minneapolis Creek. Really strong golden soil anomaly. Put a few rat holes in here, but really have not begun to even scratch the surface of this target. And now we're going to cross the Yukon River, and we're going to look at our VG deposit. So this is our VG deposit, about 10 kilometers to the north. Geologically, it looks really similar to Arc. Or not Arc, to Golden Saddle, sorry. You can put 2 pieces of core together and very hard pressed to tell the difference between the two. Nice target for us up here as well. And I'm just going to turn off the topography. We can take a look at. So here's just as we spin VG around. Again, we're looking at the blocks here, populated with gold mineralization, but just spinning around, you can see really nice broad grade of gold mineralization. These are all your gold intersections in the drill core here. Really broad zones, strongly mineralized with gold. Seeing relatively minimal drilling, but again, about over 200,000 ounces of gold just in this small little area. So a lot of potential in VG to build a lot of ounces quickly. And you can see just as the deepest hole we've drilled, very strong intersection here of gold mineralization and no follow-up drilling around it. So lots of room to continue to expand our VG deposit, both along strike and at depth. We've just started really scratching the surface of that deposit as well. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor back to Terry.
Thanks, Cam. That was good. Let's look at the 2023 exploration program. We'll get some of these other projects that Dave was referring to. Jerry, there you go. Okay. So yeah, this is basically just a summary slide showing what we did this year. We did three diamond drill programs, one on the Betty property, again, focused on Betty Ford. On the JP Ross property, we revisited the Vertigo target, did some diamond drilling there. That was a target that generated a lot of excitement back in 2018 and 2019. The Nolan property, we drilled the Cali target. That's a target that we had been wanting to drill for the last 2 or 3 years, and then finally got around to testing that this year. And then the regional program, we did some RAB drilling on a couple of projects, Wolf and Tooney, and did some soil sampling on another couple, IND and QV. and IP resistivity surveys on Peddler and Hayes. Those are the porphyry targets that Dave was referring to there a bit earlier near Casino. So let's take a look at Betty Ford first. So this is a series of maps. You can kind of see who our neighbors are. Again, Casino is located just about 15 kilometers to the southwest. Coffee is around 40 kilometers to the west along strike. You can see the red line along the southern boundary of the Betty property. That's the proposed Casino Road as part of the Resource Gateway project. So again, any future discoveries we make on the Betty property, I think in terms of potential development and so on, the infrastructure is expected to get obviously a lot better with these road projects. So this is the aeromagnetics, the first vertical derivative. And again, the key takeaway, I think, from this map is that we're right on strike with the Coffee deposit. The Coffee Creek Fault basically is that deep blue line. You can kind of, if you look at the red star pointing to Betty Ford off on the right side, we're right on that Coffee Creek Fault, or actually a little splay off the fault. So, really good geology. Casino, again, is about 15 kilometers away. So in addition to orogenic type gold deposits, which we're chasing primarily, there is potential for porphyries and epithermal and those types of deposits as well. Next, please. Okay, so this is a property map. This is a structural interpretation that Dr. Matias Sanchez did for us, based mainly on LiDAR and magnetics. But, there's a number of targets that we've identified. The black is right on the Coffee Creek Fault. You can trace it again from Coffee right out to Betty Ford. We've got the white, the Ford, and the Grable, again indicated there by the yellow stars. The background colors, the magentas and the reds, are basically golden soil. So, really good correlation between the known targets and soil geochemistry. Just off to the southeast, we have the Mascot target, which actually includes a number of different targets: the Davis, the Page, the Boot. We did a little bit of diamond drilling there last year. That was the first year that had been diamond drilled. Ethos Gold did some RC drilling here about 10 years ago and came with some interesting results. So, it's a large property with lots of good targets, really, that have seen minimal testing and a lot of them no drilling. So.
And just to add on to that point there, Terry, just to help put this all in context, the Betty property could ostensibly be, its own public company. If you just look at the size, the scale, the amount of work that's been done, you couldn't really ask for much more. You see, there's a lot of smoke. We have all these soil anomalies that have been identified. The work is just sort of getting underway, and there's been one major discovery, and we think we're sort of on the cusp of potentially making many more as the work gets done. And just to that point, another thing to maintain in context, for the work that's been done through the iterations of these different properties prior to White Gold consolidating and all, that's probably in the order of north of $100 million for sure, probably closer to 120. In today's dollars, that's probably closer to $200 million. So what you have here in White Gold, just to always sort of bear in mind, is you have a company that's what has it done? It's accomplished the most difficult thing for any exploration company to do. That's make a successful discovery that leads to a mineral resource. Not only has it done that, it's led to a mineral resource over 2 million ounces at 2 grams. The odds of that is well north of, or well less than 1 in 1,000. So we beat the odds geologically, and you have the tremendous amount of investment that's been made in the past. And as investors now, or prospective investors, I think there's a tremendous amount of value you're able to sort of leverage off of. This is sort of really a benefit to us. And what I really do think is that this is the early days of what's becoming another gold rush here in the Yukon, particularly this area, and that's what's leading all these majors to come in here. So sorry, Terry, I'll just turn it back to you. But I just want to help put it in context here. Maybe talk.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I guess another thing to note too is that again, up until 2 years ago, there was absolutely no diamond drilling done on this project, and with the Betty Ford, we did some RAB drilling back in 2000.
Terry, I think you're on mute there.
Oh, everything okay? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, so the RAB hole from 2018 hole 2 had 1 gram over about 50 meters. But again, the host unit is a polylithic breccia unit, which we'll show you. And we didn't know from that RAB drill program what the real geology was. So the diamond drilling really does give you so much more information on the geology compared to RC and RAB drilling. If you look at the mascot, the lower table there shows some of Ethos's results. Again, some really interesting numbers, 2.6 grams over about 41 meters, some really high grade material, almost 30 grams over 3 meters. So, these are basically, well-defined soil anomalies. And certainly, lots of potential with minimal drilling. So this is a plan map for the Betty Ford target. The table on the right shows some of the drill results that we've had. You can see some nice broad zones of good grade mineralization. And you can also see the shallow depths of those intersections. So basically, everything we're seeing here is quite shallow. The gold mineralization, like I said, it's hosted in that polylithic breccia unit, which is shown in the pink color in the map on the left. And all the mineralization that really we've encountered so far is probably within the top 70 or 80 meters. It appears to be related to sort of an oxidized transition zone within that breccia. So this year's drilling, really, we had a number of goals. One was we do see a lot of porphyry fragments within the breccia. So our working model was that underneath that breccia, there could be a buried mineralized porphyry. So one of our holes was testing that. And then we were also testing for a potential feeder structure for the gold that we're seeing at surface. But basically, we just recently released results for the first 2 holes. Hole 12 had the deepest gold mineralization actually that we've seen. Like I said, that's within what we call a sulfide zone, about 1.2 grams over just over 8 meters. But again, you can see it's occurring down around 165 to 175 meters. Hole 13, which was very close to one of our highest grade holes previously, hole 3. Again, not surprisingly, it was a short distance, maybe 10 to 25 meters. But basically, that had 3.4 grams over 53 meters. Again, the highest grade gold being at the basal portion of that oxide zone and within the transition zone. And then within that, you can see some, a couple of nice higher grade zones, 7.2 grams over 6.3 meters and 8 grams over about 4.5 meters. So, really nice gold numbers. Based on some early petrography work we've done, it appears the gold is basically hosted within the matrix. One of the other interesting things to note about hole 12 this year is that we expanded the breccia to the south by about another 50 meters. That's kind of indicated in that kind of like wedge in the lower left-hand corner there. So, the zone remains open along strike, particularly to the east. Again, most of our drilling this year was within a fairly confined area, but we certainly think there's potential to extend the zone to the east. Overall, the breccia is around 500 meters long, based on what we know, and I think we've basically identified gold mineralization about half of that strike length. So we'll continue to try to work and expand that. So this is just a couple of cross sections. The one on the left basically shows the rab hole one that had the 1 gram over about 24 meters. And then hole 3 from 2021, which was a very nice hole, 3.5 grams over 50 meters. So again, you can see it's within that pink unit, the breccia unit. And you'll also see the sort of sub-horizontal is sort of sub-paralleling the surface of the oxide domain, sulfide domain. So like I said, there does seem to be a correlation between the gold mineralization and that oxide sulfide domain. The map on the right shows results for hole 13 this year. Again, this was a hole, basically, we drilled to 503 meters, basically looking for that buried porphyry. So it did basically drill, right down that breccia unit. Again, though, with the working idea or model that basically this thing is underlain by a porphyry. So again, good grades, 3.4 grams over 53 meters. So, as long as we're in that oxidized breccia, we're pretty confident we're going to continue to get some good gold numbers. Next, please. Yeah, so this is the drill core photo from hole 3 from 2021. And you can see, the grades are annotated there, but, really consistent grades, I guess, is how you would describe this. When you're in the mineralized zone, you consistently get good grade. When you're out of it, the transition, it's fairly sharp within several meters, and then you're out of it. So, but anyway, like I said, we're getting grades anywhere from maybe 1.5 grams to 3.5 grams over about 15 meters. So that's quite good. Cam, you get some leapfrog?
Hey, sorry, yeah, my internet was showing I was offline. Yes, I will. Let's pull up here on the screen share, and it was an excellent introduction on the overview on Betty Ford. So you can see my screen again.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So we'll start off similar to what I did with the white property, and we'll just take a look at really the gold and soil contours and where Betty Ford and other targets sit. So, as Terry's saying, really the Betty property is bisected by the Coffee Creek Fault. And when you look at LiDAR, so you can see this structure coming through here. That's the northern portion of the Coffee Creek Fault. And you can see coming off that are these splays, and these are all kind of gold mineralized second order, third order splays off the Coffee Creek Fault. You have one here, another one coming down there, and then carrying on. And this is separate. This is our mascot target down to the southeast. But within that splay, we have now, this is the Betty Ford target, and then carrying on over east to our Grable, and then down this off to the north, just down the ridge is our Betty White target. So again, Golden Soil's doing an excellent job for us, really helping to highlight where these targets are. So we can see is Betty Ford, right in the center. What I'm showing is our polyolithic breccia. The red is our current understanding of the polyolithic breccia, and then this blue trace here, as Terry's mentioned, this is our previous interpretation. You can see just from drilling this year, we've really expanded that polyolithic breccia to the south. And that was largely a result of our drilling, where we're looking for a feeder structure. And I'm just going to look in cross section, and bear with me. We're going to slice this down a little bit. If we're going to look at we're looking at VLF, so a geophysical target. You can see it's nice right along this contact of the VLF high and the low. If we look at our historic drilling, you get the strong correlation of our gold grades appearing to occur right on this kind of boundary here. So one of the interpretations was that this could represent a feeder structure for bringing the gold mineralization up into the porphyry or into our polyolithic breccia. So our first hole this season was drill testing this contact and seeing what might be there. this contact was real and present. It looks like there's a dike sitting on that contact. So we didn't see that necessarily as being a gold feeder structure. I'm just
Lost you, Cam.
Am I back here?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. We're the joys of sometimes being so reliant on internet. But here we have again this sulfide mineralization. First time we've actually intersected a contiguous zone of more than one assay in the sulfide domain. So 1.2 grams over 8 meters, really exciting, and that we're actually seeing that gold mineralization now at depth as well. So hopefully in future drilling, we can start to find an ore shoot, a trend of gold at depth that we can start to chase this thing at depth as well. Because you can see, if we look look down the side of this here, it's a large depth extent to this polyolithic breccia. We've got a really good handle on the orientation of it, where it sits. So if we can start finding a feeder structure, a lot of opportunity to build a lot of ounces quite quickly within this breccia unit itself. And as Terry mentioned right now, the lion's share of our grades that we're seeing sit within the oxide and transitional domain. So part of our focus too will be really looking at expanding this along strike. This is our current understanding of the strike here. Still remains open on strike. And part of our drilling as well, too, it looks like when we look at our drill core, there's another breccia that we've noticed in our drill core. It was intersected fairly far down in hole number 2 from drilling in 2021. But there could be another, might be perhaps a bit narrower, but there's potential for another polyolithic breccia just sitting off to the north, and that would correlate to this portion of the soil geochemistry as well. So quite a lot to still continue looking at, a lot of additional potential at Betty Ford. Quite excited to get back there and continue drilling. This is, the ridge that, I'll angle that down a bit, that Betty Ford is sitting on. And just down the ridge from there is our Betty White target as well. Only seen just initial really rab drilling and a few diamond drill holes. Largely this anomaly remains unexplained, and a lot of potential there as well too. So just between these two targets alone, really excited to start seeing what we can start building there, and then continuing to look along strike over to Grable, and then in our broader picture as well with between Mascot and all our other untested targets. So Betty to us is really quite an exciting target. And as David mentioned as well, we're so close to Casino, to Coffee as well, large deposits in the area, and really we're just starting to scratch the surface of what we have here. So lots of excitement yet to come from Betty Ford and our Betty property. And I'm going to hand it back over to you there, Terry.
Yeah, thanks, Cam.
That was good. Yeah, just to Cam's last point is, it's all well and good to find this stuff, but eventually we, as a company, want to see that it has the possibility to be monetized. And the fact that you have the second largest gold company in the world permitting a mine, one side of your property, and then Western Copper with the largest mining company in the world, partnership with Rio just to the south of the property. I think it's really indicative of the kind of perspective and opportunity that people see in the area. That resource gateway project, the road's going to come right over that property, and into those other two properties potentially. So that, that's phenomenal for access in the future. And on the topic of the road, there's also another roadway that is being contemplated from Dawson to the Coffee deposit itself. That's a partnership between various different parties in the area, and they're working towards that. So these types of evolution within a district are game changers. Clearly, we already have very substantial discoveries, but to the extent that you can continue to improve access, now you don't necessarily need to make a 2 million ounce discovery. You make a 500,000 ounce discovery, and then it becomes like any camp is, you'll have a couple of facilities in the area, and you truck your kind of localized ore bodies to those. And this is where we see things happening. The area had been quiet for the last 6 or 7 years, but it's, the Yukon's really sort of started to pick up in activity, which is phenomenal. A number of the other companies in the district have announced larger resource updates as well. So really happy to see the increase in interest and the increase in the speed which things are evolving in the area. So this is everything you want to see for the evolution of a camp. And like I alluded to at the beginning, I really think this will become a world-class camp within Canada. And the opportunity here, it's akin to, so if I had that, if someone asks you, say, hey, would you like the opportunity to buy 70% of Val d'Or or Timmins or Nevada Goldfields, 75 years ago, I'm sure everyone would have jumped on that. And I think this is where we are today in this district, in this territory. So it's a very exciting time, and the ability to be making high grade 3.5+ gram discoveries at surface with everything else going on that I just mentioned. That's a dream come true from our perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Jerry, let's try to have a quick look at some of these other projects. I think that might be the last Betty Ford slide. So here's Vertigo. Anyone who's followed the company knows that this was a project that had generated a lot of excitement back in 2018 and 2019. We hadn't done anything with it for a while. In the off season last year, we did a new structural interpretation and sort of came away thinking that a lot of the previous drilling didn't really adequately test. We saw at least 3 different vein sets basically. And so we thought there might be some potential for bulk tonnage type gold. So we did a program there this year, kind of, you could say Vertigo revisited. Our best hole from that program was hole 52. We came away with 1.4 grams over about 58 meters. In looking at the core, we did a detailed review of the core late in the season. There's some really nice breccia zones with pyrite, arsenopyrite, both hydrothermal breccias and crackle breccias, and sort of a major fault kind of marking the base of that zone within that hole. So we really do, we were encouraged by that hole, but it is a structurally complex area. So what we'll do in the off season this year is go back, look at all the information, including data from this year's drilling as well as previous drilling, just to see if we're able to better vector some of our future drilling. And again, this is a structural interpretation done by Matias Sanchez for the Vertigo. So it is in a good structural setting, and it's still one of our better targets especially on the JP Ross property. Next, please. Yeah, so we did some trenching there back in 2019, and there's some nice VG within those samples. So you can see in the hand sample there on the left, some of the higher grade, about 140 grams per ton. So, the Vertigo is not the issue of the grade. It's basically the interpretation and the continuity. So. Anyway, we were encouraged by this year's results, and we'll take that back in the off season and see where we go from here. This is the Nolan. This is basically, we're about 75 meters west of Dawson City, out towards the Alaska border, just south of the top of the World Highway. So the aeromagnetic map on the left shows the 60-mile peak of fault. The property as a whole has a number of different geochemical targets. The Mount Hart in the south is quite large. Then we have the Boucher in the central part. And the Cali is the one that we drilled this year. It's basically right on that 60-mile peak of fault. And it's also in a prolific placer gold producing area in the 60-mile area. So anyway, that was the first diamond drilling. This was our maiden diamond drilling for this one. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so basically what we did, this was really a first pass. You can see the geochemical anomaly is about, a minimum of 2 kilometers long, and had never seen a diamond drill hole. So we put basically 3 widely spaced holes, but just to get a first look at it. So we tested roughly about 1 kilometer of strike length. We don't have any of those assay results back yet, but we expect to, within the next probably 3 or 4 weeks. So anyway, that was one of those targets that was begging to be drilled. So that's what we did this year on the Cali. This is the next 2 slides basically just touch on these porphyry targets in the southern part of our land package. If you look at the map on the left here, you can see where Casino is. If you look further east, you can see some of the other porphyry deposits and targets. So Hayes and Peddler, they're both really early stage targets. This particular one, the map on the right shows the Hayes geochemical anomaly. So we have a really nice bismuth core, and then that's kind of haloed by silver, lead. It's associated, we know from government mapping, Yukon Geological Survey, late Cretaceous Prospector Mountain Suite. So it's got the right geology, the right geochemistry. And if we go to the next one for the Peddler, this is our Bridget target. This one's been known for decades. It's a very large molybdenum anomaly primarily, but you can see if you look in the lower right, you can see a nice bismuth core as well. Some copper. So what we did this year, we ran some preliminary IP resistivity lines over both of these targets. Essentially, we know we got the right geology, the right geochemistry, just trying to get a geophysical signature for what's going on in the subsurface. So we're kind of waiting to get that report back on the results. But anyway, we're encouraged by both of those targets. I mean, they're quite large in the order of kilometers. So it's a bit different, I guess, from most of our gold-focused exploration. But again, in the world of critical metals, molybdenum, copper are probably not a bad place to be. So we're quite excited about those ones as well. And that's really it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, those 2 targets there are another example of the value of owning a district like we do. The Yukon is incredibly rich as it comes to mineralization potential. And yes, our focus is gold and has been gold, but we continue to come across occurrences of these different types of mineralization. And, with the Casino copper gold porphyry, right, sort of basically adjacent to this, I think it would make a lot of sense for us to do some more work on this to continue to advance it forward. And we're seeing a lot of these types of potentials in some of our other properties as well. As people who do follow the Yukon, they continue to see different zinc projects advance, etc. So the opportunities are nothing. No stone goes unturned, and we'll continue to invest and advance these projects as we feel they make sense based on the exploration work conducted.
All right, perfect. Thanks for that. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut to a couple of the questions here. We're a bit short on time, so the questions that are not answered will be answered via follow-up from the White Gold team. So let's get right into it. So first of all, can you tell me what is the potential to extend mineralization further at both the Betty and Vertigo? Asks PT Harris here.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think the potential for Betty Ford would be primarily along strike to the east. We've done some drilling out in that area, but again, most of that drilling is intersecting the breccia at a deeper level. So what we've been talking about doing next year is to drill some, short, shallow holes off to the east, basically trying to find that oxidize or trace it along strike. And again, until 2021, we really didn't know that breccia existed. It's a newly identified unit. There could be other lookalikes on the Betty property elsewhere. So, we'll be looking at that potential as well. Vertigo is more complex structurally, I would say. We really do need to go back and look and see how this year's drilling sort of fits in with, the drilling in the past and what our interpretation was. But the grades are there at Vertigo. I think it's just a matter of understanding structure a bit better and seeing if we can establish that continuity that really you need in order to build up ounces, basically.
And just one thing that was very interesting to me this year, going back to the Betty. This year was the first year we drilled from south to north, and I think that's given us some new information about the north-south dimensions of that breccia unit. I think we could see potential for it to continue growing, and we're learning a lot more from that directional drilling, and also with the intersection of gold now at further depths. Don't forget, we are continuing to trace the source of this gold mineralization. The grades are so high up to surface. So if we can tap into that, as Cam mentioned when he went through the modeling, I think that could provide an opportunity for a tremendous amount of growth at the Betty itself. And then again, don't forget, the Betty 4 is one of several different targets on the Betty property itself. We did some drilling at the Mascot last year. The Mascot has incredibly high grades, up to 20 plus grams of gold, and along with other mineralization as well. So it's just we're continuing to learn a lot. Each target has its own unique potential profile. So there's a Betty Ford itself, then there's these other new targets with very significant soil anomalies on them, which certainly warrant drill testing as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And these next two questions are tied for the most upvotes. So what are the future exploration plans for this year and next year?
So right now we've had a very active 2023 program. So I think before we can plan on next year, we're going to be spending the next several months and throughout the winter interpreting the data that we receive. The data is starting to come in now and will continue to come in over the next several months, which leads to news and press releases. So this is typically our busiest news time of the year. So please do stay tuned over the next several months and into the new year as we continue to put out updates from all this good work. Based on what we see, that'll lead us to develop our plan for next year. The process, we typically will update our partners, Nico, Kinross, as to what we found, and they've been great partners for helping us sort of identify where we should think to continue to, and best ways to add value to the company. I would suppose that the Betty Ford will certainly, and the Betty property itself, command a lot more work. We continue to hit these exceptional grades there, depending what comes from some of these other results. It's certainly, we're very excited to see what comes of that, because that'll, definitely warrant more follow-up work as well.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. And finally, do you plan on increasing the number of drills and meters drilled to speed up exploration as you have such a large land package?
That would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. This is always sort of a bit of a balance. This year our program was designed to be very impactful. The last couple of years were smaller than typical exploration programs. We did have several drills turning on those years, those with COVID and whatever. We thought it better to be conservative, keep our camp sizes small. With the seasonality, the last thing we wanted to do was to have, a timeout period. But, to the extent that, we certainly have the work to do, to the extent that it's feasible, absolutely, right? This exploration, the way you drive value is by doing the work, and the more work we can do, the better. Which also leads to different opportunities of how we can, continue to advance and invest in our portfolio directly with our partners and other people, et cetera.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. And we still had about 3 or 4 questions, but we're out of time. So do not worry, everyone. We will get to those after the event and reach out to you individually. So thank you all for taking us through these updates and the Q&A session. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions. And as always, today's recording will be available to watch on demand in the coming days. So feel free to look out for that. And before we wrap up, just passing things back over to you, gentlemen, for any closing remarks you'd like to make.
Yeah, we'd really like to thank everyone for their interest today. We're very fortunate to work in an incredibly blessed geologic environment. We're also very fortunate to have great partners between the different government bodies that we work with up there. And, it's really a priority of ours to ensure that all stakeholders are included in this process, and we advance these projects with everyone's best interest in mind. We didn't really get a chance to touch on it too much. The ESG profile of this company is exceptional. Our methodologies have been developed to minimize footprints of all the work that we've done. So this is all stuff that's top of mind as well. Personally, I think that the level of activity in the Yukon is increasing more so in the last year or so than we've seen in the last several. That's, I think, going to help bolster and continue to advance the development of this camp. I really do believe we're at the very early days of a major new gold rush or metals rush in this district. And this will evolve into one of Canada's most prolific camps. And we're in the very fortunate position to have such a tremendously large land package. We have defined resources. We have the know-how. We've made the investments. And I think we've really cracked the code up here. And we're just literally scratching the surface. And our most exciting days are ahead of us.
Well, thanks again, everyone, for participating. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.